The air in the Harrington dining room was thick with polished linen, hush, and expectation. Crystal chandeliers glowed overhead, casting soft light on faces sharpened by dissent. I sat at the long table in a borrowed gown, the fabric clinging slightly in places where it had stretched. A reminder that beyond the chandelier glare, this world was not made for me. William Harrington's voice cut through the soft hum of conversation as though it were a blade. "My son deserves better than someone from the gutter." The words stalled. The laughter paused mid-breath. 23 pairs of eyes swiveled between him and me, the air vibrating with the electric suspense of what I might or might not do. My hands, still scented of rare wine, and the aftertaste of my own resolve, curled into fists on the napkin. "Street garbage in a borrowed dress," he continued, each word deliberate, venomous. I felt my pulse humming at the base of my neck, the room around me warping slightly, edges blurring in and out. The world slowed. I swallowed, then rose, my voice low but clear. "Thank you for dinner, Mr. Harrington, and thank you for finally being honest about how you feel." My name is Zafira Cross. I am 32 and the CEO of Cross Technologies. You may call me whatever you wish, but I will not shrink into a shadow just because your world is too fragile to accept my light. A frozen hush, then the clink of silverware. Quinn was beside me in an instant, his hand warm on my wrist. "Zafira, don't," he whispered. I squeezed his hand gently, then let go. "No, Quentin." He spoke it aloud. Now I answer it aloud. William's smirk flickered, hurt, surprise. The man who'd carried himself like a king in his own court. But now I saw how tenuous that mantle was. He rose. His voice, once so certain, now trembled slightly. "You overestimate your credentials. You cannot play in this world without being seen and judged." I walked past portraits of ancestral Harringtons, past the hush of servants darting eyes at me, past the glass doors opening to moonlit marble, past the Bentley, past the torchlit walkway, out into the driveway. My sensible sedan waited, the world's quiet contradiction to his mansion's boasting. Quinn ran to my side. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice quivering. I turned to him. "I am, because now we know where we both stand." I was born in a town that the maps nearly forgot. Cracked sidewalks where roots broke through concrete, street lamps flickering, and houses leaning slightly as if tired. My mother left when I was 6, not with fanfare, but in silence. My father's health declined soon after. Mini-strokes, hospital stays, the slight wobble in his hand. There was one sister, Maris, 3 years older. She became the de facto mother in the shadows, cooking, cleaning, going without food so I could eat. I found part-time work cleaning offices by night, scrubbing floors, mopping bathrooms. I carried my textbooks by day and dusters by night. Every scar on my palms was a ledger entry in a book I kept called The Cost of Survival. When I turned 18, I had $1,200 in savings, a used laptop, and a dream: to build something no one could take away by pedigree or blood. I launched Cross Technologies in a rented one-room office above a laundromat. My first employee was Maris, working at minimum wage, bootstraps pulling tight. We coded, we pitched, we hustled. Quentin came into my life like a steady breath. He wasn't dazzled by my ambition. He was drawn by my fire. He listened when I described a feature. He nodded when I spoke of patents and markets. He believed in me more than I sometimes did. Married love, I once thought it would be roots. With him, it felt like wings. When Harrington Industries approached Cross about a merger, it felt like fate. We signed NDAs, we shook hands. But inside, I stashed data repositories, backups, alternate legal entities. Because I had learned early, power is not trust. Power is insurance. Maris grew distant as my world grew large. The little sister she'd protected transformed into someone she couldn't recognize. Polished, imposing, invulnerable. Her old kindnesses felt awkward in boardrooms. Yet at night, when the city lights pulsed beneath my balcony, I still carried her memory in my chest. When I accepted the dinner invitation at the Harrington estate, Quentin warned me, "They'll try to humiliate you." But I said, "Then let them. The bigger stage deserves a grand response." So I arrived in borrowed silk, stepping carefully into their world, aware of my past, yet ready to challenge their assumptions. The man who thought he could insult me in front of his friends was about to learn that I had prepared in silence. The man who declared me garbage would soon see that garbage grows into steel when buried deep. Morning sunlight spilled through my penthouse windows like an accusation. My phone buzzed relentlessly on the marble counter. Unknown numbers, missed calls, news alerts. William Harrington's face had already made the morning cycle on business networks. Cross Technologies cancels to-be merger. Internal sources cite ethical differences. Ethical differences. That was Danielle's phrase. Elegant, loaded, precise. It meant everything and nothing. It meant William had lost control. I sipped my coffee and watched the headline crawl across the screen. For the first time in years, I felt the calm weight of power. Not as a rush, but as stillness. The kind that comes when every piece on the chessboard has finally landed exactly where you placed it. Danielle called, as I knew she would. "He's trying to reach you again. Personal line, corporate line, even emailed our press contact pretending to be an investor." "Let him sweat," I said. "No response until afternoon. Then send a polite message declining all future correspondence." She hesitated. "You know this is war, right?" "It's always been war, Danny. He just never realized who declared it first." That afternoon, I received a text from a number I hadn't seen in months. Maris. "Heard about your little scandal. You sure know how to make enemies with rich people. Call me." My chest tightened. I hadn't spoken to my sister in almost a year. Not since she'd told me I'd become as cold as the people you once hated. But curiosity was a dangerous thing, and loneliness, even more so. So I called. She answered on the first ring. "Wow," she said, her voice lined with irony. "The great Zafira Cross remembers the little people." "Don't start," I said. "If this is about money, Money?" She laughed. "No. Believe it or not everything is about your empire. I just wanted to warn you." "Warn me?" "I work in PR now. We monitor business gossip. Word is, Harrington Industries isn't just panicking. They're digging. Deep. Your records, your early investors, your offshore holdings. If they find something—" "They won't," I said simply. "Zafira," she said softly now, and for a second I heard my sister, not the voice of someone who despised what I'd become. "You used to be different." "I used to be poor," I said. "Different doesn't pay bills." There was a long silence. Then, "Be careful. They'll play dirty." And the line went dead. I stood there staring at the skyline. Maris was right about one thing. They would dig. And maybe, just maybe, they would find something worth burying me for. That evening, my private email pinged. A message from an encrypted sender. The subject line read, "He's planning something." Inside was a single PDF, a scanned contract bearing my digital signature, a forged one. William had moved fast. It was a fake acquisition deal tying Cross Technologies to a shell company in the Cayman Islands, implying financial misconduct. He wanted to discredit me before I could bury him. But what he didn't know was that I'd already seen this play before. I'd played it myself. 3 days after the forged leak, the press turned feral. Anonymous sources close to the merger claimed Zafira Cross falsified shareholder documentation. Stock trembled, just slightly, but not enough to fall. Danielle stormed into my office, waving her tablet. We traced the leak to one of Harrington's PR firms. "Let them keep leaking," I said. "Every move he makes builds my case." She blinked. "What case?" "The one I'll use to end him." That night, I met Quinn. He looked exhausted, guilt in his eyes, grief in his posture. He hadn't shaved. His tie hung loose. "My father's losing everything," he said. "Investors are leaving. Board members are panicking. They think you'll crush the company." "I might," I said simply. He flinched. "You don't have to destroy him." I met his eyes. "You think I'm doing this out of spite?" "No. I'm doing it because men like him destroy people like me every day. Quietly, politely, with champagne and laughter. I'm just giving him the courtesy of seeing it coming." He was silent for a long time. Then, quietly, "He's still my father." "I know," I said, "and I don't expect you to choose. But understand this. He's made his choice already." He nodded once, stepped closer. "Then let me help," I almost laughed. "You'd go against him?" "I'd rather fight for something real than inherit something rotten." The words hit like sunlight through fog. I didn't trust him, not yet. But part of me wanted to. By the end of that week, my attorneys filed 3 injunctions. One to block the forged acquisition. One to freeze Harrington's corporate accounts under suspicion of fraudulent correspondence. And one, the quietest one, to begin a hostile takeover of his board. While William fumed on financial news shows, declaring innocence and shouting about corporate witch hunts, I sat in my office, sipping whiskey and signing contracts with his competitors. He was burning bridges. I was building new cities from the ash. 2 months into the war, everything was different. The Harrington mansion that once glittered in high society columns now carried whispers. Bankruptcy, infighting, betrayal. Rachel, his wife, had been seen crying at a charity gala. Patricia, his daughter, deleted her social media after the tabloids feasted on the scandal. And William, the once unshakable titan, had been reduced to calling me. Every night, I never answered, but I kept every voicemail. "Zafira, we can make this right. Name your price." "You've made your point, but this has gone too far." "Do you want to see me ruined? Is that it?" "Please, for my son's sake." Every word was fuel. Every apology came too late. One morning, Danielle entered my office with a strange look. "There's someone here to see you," she said. "Not William, his wife." Rachel Harrington stood in my lobby, the picture of poise, dressed in muted beige, pearls dull under the morning light. Her eyes were swollen, but her back straight. I gestured for her to sit. She didn't. "You're destroying him," she said. I tilted my head. "He destroyed himself." "He's old, proud, foolish, but he's also my husband." "And he called me garbage," I said evenly. "Do you know what it's like to be looked at like you're dirt beneath someone's shoe? To be dismissed because of the family you were born into?" Rachel closed her eyes. "Yes!" That surprised me. "What?" "You think I was born rich?" she asked quietly. "I married into this world, Zafira, and I've been paying the price ever since." Her voice broke. "I'm not here to defend him. I'm here to ask you, what happens when the dust settles? Will you still recognize yourself? For the first time, I had no answer. That night, I stood on my balcony watching the city lights shimmer like scattered embers. My reflection in the glass looked calm, almost serene. But inside, something shifted. Rachel's words echoed in my chest. Will you still recognize yourself? Was this victory? Or just another kind of prison? The first real crack appeared on a rainy Monday morning. Cross Technology's servers had been breached. Not fully, just enough to cause chaos. Danielle burst into my office, face pale, clutching a tablet like it was a weapon. They hit the archives, financial logs, encrypted communications, everything from the last 3 years. I didn't move. Was anything taken? She hesitated. Only one file, the one about the Harrington acquisition. The irony almost made me laugh. The same file William forged weeks ago, the one I had buried beneath layers of legal encryption. Now it was out in the world again, reborn as evidence against me. By noon, every outlet from the Financial Ledger to Business Wire had the story. Zafira Cross, accused of market manipulation. SEC launches. Preliminary investigation. My phone exploded with calls. Lawyers, board members, journalists, vultures, all hungry for a piece of blood. But I wasn't angry. Not yet. Because this was predictable. William was cornered, and a cornered man always claws before he collapses. That evening, Quinn came to my apartment. He looked broken, like someone who'd finally realized the cost of loyalty. He did it, he said. My father leaked the story. I know. You're not even surprised? I poured him a drink. No, because I would have done the same thing if I were him. He stared at me for a long moment, the glass trembling in his hand. You talk about revenge like it's justice, I smiled faintly, and you talk about forgiveness like it's free. He exhaled sharply. He's sick, Zafira. Heart problems. Stress. He's not the man he used to be. Good, I said. Maybe he'll live long enough to watch everything he built burn. He flinched, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not of me, but of what I was becoming. 2 days later, I met my lawyers in a boardroom overlooking the city. Storm clouds bruised the sky. Files stacked like tombstones lined the table. We can fight the SEC, one said, but you'll need to show transparency, full audit, full cooperation. Do it, I said. Zafira, that means giving them everything. Every transaction, every offshore holding. Everything, I repeated, because when this is over, I won't just be cleared. I'll be untouchable. That night, I sat in my penthouse alone. I opened a locked drawer and pulled out an old photo. Me and Maris as kids, barefoot on a beach, laughing at something small and meaningless. I hadn't realized I was crying until a tear hit the paper. Power was supposed to feel like freedom, but lately it felt like a cage I'd built myself. Brick by brick, law by law. The SEC investigation dragged on for weeks. Every day felt like a slow bleed. Danielle barely slept. My staff walked on eggshells. Investors hovered like vultures. And yet, I remained calm. Because I had one final card left to play. It started with a whisper from an anonymous source. A message sent to my encrypted inbox at 3:17 a.m. You're not the only one he forged documents against. Attached were 3 files. Real ones this time. Emails between William and a private contractor, falsifying valuation reports for 2 of his own subsidiaries. If those went public, the SEC would pivot instantly. From me to him. But there was a cost. Releasing them meant breaking several federal statutes. And even if I stayed anonymous, someone could trace the leak. It wasn't business anymore. It was war in the dark. Quinn showed up again, unannounced, drenched from the rain. "You're about to do something dangerous, aren't you?" I didn't answer. He stepped closer. "He's already lost everything. Why keep going?" "Because he made sure I would never forget what it felt like to be beneath him." "And what about me?" he said softly. "Do you even see me anymore? Or am I just a tool for your revenge?" For a long time I said nothing. Then I whispered, "You remind me of who I used to be. That's why you scare me." He looked at me for a long time, then kissed me, desperate, reckless, like someone clinging to the last spark in a dying storm. I didn't stop him, but afterward, when he fell asleep beside me, I sat by the window and sent the files. No turning back. By morning, the news broke. Harrington Industries faces SEC raid over falsified reports. Anonymous source claims internal corruption. The tide turned instantly. My name vanished from the headlines. His filled every line. William Harrington was finished. But victory came with silence. Quinn didn't call. Danielle said he'd resigned from his father's company and disappeared. And for the first time, I wondered if winning was just another way of being alone. 3 weeks later, I received a letter. Handwritten, sealed with wax. The old-fashioned kind no one sends anymore. Inside was a single sentence. "Meet me where it all began." No signature, but I knew the handwriting. William. I found him in the same restaurant where we'd first met years ago, the place where he'd looked at me like I was something rare. Now he looked older, smaller, a lion stripped of his mane. He stood slowly as I approached. "You won," he said. "I suppose congratulations are in order." "Don't pretend this is civility," I replied. "You called me here for a reason." He smiled faintly. "You were always perceptive. Tell me, was it worth it?" "Every second." He laughed once, bitterly. "I underestimated you." "You didn't underestimate me," I said. "You dehumanized me. There's a difference." He nodded. "And now what? You've taken everything. My company, my name, my son." He made his own choices. "No," he said quietly. "You made them for him." That struck deeper than I expected. "You think this ends with me in ruin," he continued. "But it won't, because people like us, we don't die. We haunt. Every boardroom you walk into, every deal you sign, they'll see me in your reflection. You'll never escape me." He stood, placed an envelope on the table, and walked away. Inside was a photograph. Me, Quinn, together, taken through the window of my apartment. On the back, a message. "You're not as invisible as you think." That night, my security chief confirmed it. Surveillance cameras had been disabled near my building 2 nights prior. Whoever took that photo had inside access, and only one person knew both my personal schedule and my security rotation. Danielle. I called her to my office at dawn. She entered calm, collected, but her eyes flickered with something cold. "How long?" I asked. "Since before the breach," she said quietly. "He offered me something I couldn't refuse. Money, a future, freedom." I stepped closer. "You sold me out." "No, Zafira, I just stopped worshiping you." Her words hit harder than any betrayal, because somewhere deep down, I knew she was right. I'd built an empire not on loyalty, but on fear. As she left, I said softly, "You think you're free, Danielle? You're just another piece he moved." She turned back, eyes sharp. "And so are you." Then she was gone. That night, I stood on my balcony again, staring at the endless city lights. I had everything. wealth, power, victory, and yet it felt like standing atop a burning tower, watching the smoke curl around my crown. The city was restless that night, the kind of restlessness that comes before collapse. Storm sirens echoed somewhere in the distance, though the sky was clear. I sat alone in the penthouse, the envelope from William still on the table. That photograph, me and Quinn, stared back like an accusation. It had been a week since Danielle vanished, a week since I'd stopped sleeping, a week since the whispers started. Investors pulling out, rumors of fraud, anonymous leaks, the kind of noise that kills empires quietly. I poured myself a drink. The whiskey burned like memory. Then, a knock at the door. Slow, deliberate. Not fear, not surprise. Just inevitability. When I opened it, Quinn stood there. He looked different, older, sharper, like he'd walked through fire to get here. "You look terrible," I said softly. "You look invincible," he replied. He stepped inside, dripping rain on the marble floor. I noticed the tremor in his hands. Not fear. Rage barely contained. "You leaked the files," he said. "You destroyed my father." "He destroyed himself." "No," Quinn said, voice breaking. "You wanted him destroyed." I didn't deny it. "Do you even care what you've done to me?" That made me laugh, a bitter, cracked sound. "Care? You think I built this empire to care? You think I planned, schemed, clawed my way out of the dirt just to care?" He slammed his hand against the table. "Then why do you look like you're about to fall apart?" I turned away. The rain outside blurred the city into streaks of light, like tears the skyline refused to admit. "Because I thought revenge would taste like freedom," I whispered. "But it just tastes like him." Quinn moved closer, voice low. "You can still walk away. We can both walk away." I looked at him, really looked. The exhaustion, the hope, the small flicker of love that refused to die between us. "You still think there's a way out," I said. "There isn't. Not for people like us." He shook his head. "You're wrong." He placed a small flash drive on the table. "These are the last files, the offshore accounts, the shell companies, the ones you used to bury the old will. If the SEC sees these, you'll lose everything." "You're threatening me?" "I'm saving you," he said. "From yourself." Silence. Then, a gunshot. The sound was deafening in the glass-walled room. For a moment, I didn't realize who'd fired. Quinn staggered back, eyes wide, a red bloom spreading across his shirt. Behind him, in the doorway, William. Alive. The world slowed to a crawl. William's hand trembled around the gun. He looked weaker, thinner, paler, but his eyes still burned with that same calculated fire. "I told you, Zafira," he said. "You'll never escape me. You're supposed to be dead." He smiled faintly. "People like me don't die that easily." Quinn fell to his knees, clutching his side. Blood dripped onto the white marble, blooming like a crimson flower. "Dad! Stop!" "No," William hissed. "You chose her. You betrayed your blood." "You used me," Quinn gasped. "All my life." William raised the gun again, but I was already moving. The sound of the next shot shattered the glass wall behind us. Smoke filled the air. For a second, no one moved. Then William dropped, a dark hole between his eyes. The gun clattered across the floor. Quinn looked up at me, horror and grief blending in his gaze. "You killed him." "No," I said softly. "He killed himself the day he made me what I am." He tried to stand, stumbled. I caught him before he fell completely. "You're going to be okay," I whispered, though even I didn't believe it. "Why do you always lie so beautifully?" he murmured, and his eyes fluttered closed. The sirens came minutes later. Police, ambulance, reporters. The story was already writing itself. CEO's husband found dead in penthouse. Heir injured. Investigation ongoing. But I wasn't there when they arrived. By the time the first cameras flashed, I was gone. Weeks passed. A new city. A smaller apartment. A job no one would expect. Consulting. Under another name. Cash only. No paper trail, no past. Sometimes, when the sun hit the skyline just right, I almost forgot. Then I'd see a headline, a whisper on a blog. The ghost of Cross Industries. Rumors of a woman who'd built an empire from nothing and burned it to ash. One evening, I returned home to find an envelope on my doorstep. No name, no address. Inside, a photograph. Me and Quinn. Smiling. Alive. On the back, one line. He survived. And for the first time in years, I smiled too. A real one. Because maybe this was what freedom actually looked like. Not power, not revenge. Just a heartbeat that refused to stop. The last scene. She stands on a bridge at dawn, the city below still asleep. The river reflects her face. Older, colder, but free. She whispers to the water. They buried me once in lies. This time, I buried them in truth. Then she walks away. No destination, no chains, no ghosts left to haunt her.